For today's video, I will discuss all about the multivalued controls in the Visual Basic. It is for your laboratory exercise number 3. What are the multivalued controls in Visual Basic? We have list box, combo box, checkbox, radio button, and the date time picker. What is a list box? It represents a window control to display a list of items to a user. Second, a user can select an item from the list. And third, it can add values at design time or at runtime. Here, on the right side, we have an example of a list box, wherein we have to choose your destination from the list of Boracay, El Nido, Palawan, Puerto Princesa, and when I click the destination button, it will display the item or the value I selected. Here is the sample code. First, we need to have the form1 underscore load, wherein if we execute the system, it will run the following codes. For the list box, we use the LST prefix. LST destination is the name of our list box, followed by the items property and the add method. To add the following, we must use the code of LST destination.items.add, then the text we need to add to our list box. So we did the 4 destinations: Boracay, El Nido, Palawan, and Puerto Princesa. Next, we will have an event of LST destination underscore selected index change, wherein it will get the value of the selected item. And assign this to our text box. LST destination.text equals LST destination.selected item.toString. We use the .toString to represent the text value of the selected item. And lastly, we must use a message box or display a message box when we click the destination button. We will just use the selected, then the item we selected from our list box, LST destination.selected item.toString, and the message type VB OK only plus VB information, and the destination, which is the title of our message box. Next, the combo box. A combo box displays a drop-down list of various items. It represents a text box in which the user enters an item and a drop-down list from which the user selects an item. An example interface here is a combo box for the product name and a combo box for the product price. That will be added. The values will be added coming from the text boxes upon clicking the Add button. Here is the sample syntax. When we click the button Add, it will check first if there are values in our text boxes, the product name and the product price. And that's the time where we will add it to our combo box. Just like the list box, it will also have to use the items property and the add method. Next is the date time picker. It allows selecting a date and time by editing the displayed values in the control. Like combo box, we will have to click the arrow here, but it will display a month calendar. We must set the min date and max date properties, so it will be allowing the user to put limits on the date range. Here is a sample syntax, wherein we declare a variable having a data type of datetime. And it will check if our second datetime picker is greater than the datetime picker number 1. We will assign a variable result as time span to subtract the values of the two. And dim days as integer, it will hold the number of days coming from the time span. And the else part, it will show the display message of end date must be a day after start date. Next, radio button. The radio button control is used to provide a set of mutually exclusive options. The user can select one radio button in a group. However, we can have multiple group of radio buttons which you can see here at the right side, but must be in a group box. The check property of the radio button is used to set the state of the radio button. You can display text, image, or both on radio button control. Here is a sample syntax for our radio button. When we click the radio button for red, which use the event of check change, it will have the back color to red, and so on. Checkbox. It allows the user to set true or false or yes or no type options. The user can select or deselect it. When a checkbox is selected, it has the value of true, and when it is cleared, it holds the value of false. Unlike the radio button, we can have it check or uncheck on our runtime. However, for the radio button, once clicked, it will have the default value of check. The checkbox control has 3 states: the check, uncheck, and indeterminate. In this state, the checkbox is grayed out. For this example interface, we have a menu wherein if I check one of these 4 menus, it will add the total price for our customer. Here is a sample syntax. The method we use or the event we use is the check change as well, same with the radio button. However, we must have a condition of check. So if check hamburger is checked, then we will have it added on our total price. Else, if it's unchecked, we will subtract it from the total price, and so on. Now, let's proceed to our laboratory exercise number 3. First, you need to create a form that will collect information of your friends and relatives: the name, birthday, gender, and type. If add button is clicked, all details must be added to the list boxes. If remove button is clicked, the selected item must be removed from the list boxes. Birthday must not be after the current date. Display message box if there are missing fields. Display message box for successfully added details. And lastly, display a message box for successfully removed details. Now, let's proceed to our Visual Studio. To start with our coding, let's right-click our project name. Choose Add and choose New Item. We need to add a new form, so we will choose the form Windows form. Let's also rename the form name and update it to multi-valued form. Let's erase or delete the number 3. Once done, click Add. You can now see here an empty form. Based on the requirements, we need to add a name, birthday, gender, type, and the list boxes wherein we will put the details upon clicking the Add button. Let's have first the label and rename it to name, a text box, label again for the birthday, for the birthday we will use date time picker. Next is the gender. Label again. Rename it to gender. For gender, we will use radio button. One for male and one for the female. Next is the type. Label. Rename it to type. And checkbox. One for the friends and one checkbox for the relative. Okay. Our next step is to put a group. Okay, let's expand it. That will accommodate the 3 list boxes. You can also update the text property of our group box. Let's have it friends and another group box for the relative. Rename it to relative. There you go. Our next step is to add the list boxes. 1, 2, 3. We're done with the friends. Next, list boxes for the relatives. Okay. Our next step is to add the button that will trigger the adding and removing of the values here in our text boxes. Add and a button of remove. We must have two buttons for remove because this first button will represent the removing of items in the friends, and the second remove button will represent the removing of the relatives. With that, we must also make sure that our fields or our controls are being named properly. For this one, text box, we will have the name of text name. So txt name. For date time picker, we must use a prefix of DTP, birthday. For gender male, we will use the RB, male. For female, RB, female. Checkbox, CB. CB friends. And CB relative. Button, it is BTN. BTN add. For button remove friends. And the second remove button will be BTN remove relatives. Same with the list boxes, we must have it named properly. For the list box, LST. LST name, friends, LST birthday friends, LST gender friends, LST name relatives, LST birthday relatives, and lastly, LST gender relatives. Now we're done. If you need to specify labels for each list box, you just need to add more labels. Okay. It's part of your exercise to put some labels to make it more accurate and presentable. Okay, now let's proceed with our code. Since we added a new form, we must update our Form 1 code to call the newly added form. Let's go to form1.bb, design. Okay. Since we already have a code for the grid button, we will just use any of the labels. When I click one of this label, okay, or particularly let's use the gender. When I click the gender, it will call the newly added or newly created form, which is the multi-valued form. Double click the label. So here we will have another variable, and let's have it named multivalued. Dim multivalued equals new and then the name of our form. So new multivalued form and followed by the open and close parentheses. And the next is the multivalued that show open and close parentheses. This part of our code, it will have the newly created form to be called by another form. Once done, we will have the coding of our multivalued form. Let's go back to our design and update the add button. Double click. Okay. In our button add, we must declare three variables that will hold the name, the birthday, and we did not add a variable that will hold the type because it will be a condition to place or to put the values of the name, birthday, gender. We will also declare a string data type for these three. So dim name as string, dim birthday as string, dim gender as string. Next, we will have the text name.text to be assigned to our name variable, and DTP datetime picker birthday that value that date that will be assigned to our birthday variable. Next, let's check what is checked between the friends and relatives. If CB friends that check, then we will have the list box of name under the friends group box. So the name is LST name friends, that items that add. Inside is the variable we have for the text name.text. Next is LST birthday friends, that items that add. Inside is the birthday variable. Next, since we have two options for the gender, we must also add a condition wherein we will check whether it is female or male that has been checked by the user. If RB female that checked, then gender variable must have a female value. Else if RB male that checked, then gender must have a male value. And if after that, we will now add the gender variable to our list box, list gender friends, that items that add and gender. Let's have it a try. Click the gender label and it will show the multi-valued form. I will type my name, Uni, update the date by clicking the arrow, female, click the Friends checkbox. Click the Add button. It is now displaying what I have in our fields. The uni for the name, the short date for our date time picker, and the female for our gender. For your laboratory exercise number 3, I want you to complete the codes by adding the codes for the relatives. And these fields must be reset after adding the values in our list boxes. Also, don't forget to add the code for the remove buttons. Okay, when I said to be reset, okay, it must be, the birthday must be in a current day. And there must be no check state for radio buttons and no check state for the checkbox. And for the text box, it must be empty. Thank you and happy coding!